checking out the Sportsline Podcast on CHCH. I'm Bubba O'Neil. Well, if you are familiar or unfamiliar, you know we love talking to and uncovering amazing sports stories from Southern Ontario, and in particular, the Golden Horseshoe. And folks, as you know, there are many athletes, officials, coaches, and in today's case, a fella from Port Dover who wanted to be the next Bob Cole. Well, dreaming big is one thing, but accomplishing lofty personal goals is another. This broadcasting graduate from Mohawk College parlayed his early learning experience to an internship at Eastern Michigan. From that point, blast off to Calgary for valuable anchoring and reporter experience covering the sports scene in Alberta's biggest city with Global and Flames TV. Now, with his versatility and name fortune in the community, Sportsnet came a-calling, and his dream job became a reality covering sports on radio and television. Let's bring in the likes of Ryan Leslie. This has been way too long, partner. And in the words of our mutual friend, Peter Labardius, you're looking good and you're looking young.
Yeah, good people. Great to see you, buddy. And it has been a long time coming, and it's awesome to see you again. And, you know, I grew up watching CHCH like so many people in the area, and Port Dover was home. I was born on Sound, but, you know, growing up in Port Dover and Port Ryerson, CHCH from, you know, I remember in college I interviewed Paul Hendricks. So this was in his home. So this was big, and to see some people go on and work there was great. And now to be with you is fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Hey, this is great. Hey, you know, so much to cover here, but I got to hit you over the head with a couple of things that are actually happening right now in the sports world. Gary Bettman, like, did he hit a home run with this Four Nations face-off or what?
I mean, it's been a long time coming, right? The appetite has been there for so long, Bub, as everybody knows. And it is just this perfect culmination of an appetite for it, the talent, the caliber, the break itself, giving people, I know out east, people are buried in snow, and out west it's minus 30. So this is a perfect combination of we want it, we need it, we're home watching it, and the matchup is exactly where, you know, I think for the most part, everybody wants it. Now, I know we could go down the road of, you know, should it just be Four Nations or should there be more? But the U.S., Canada, everything that's going on politically, we don't need to wade into those waters, but everything that's going on with where the two countries and their game, their programs are, just fantastic to see that this is what we're going to get on Thursday night. And superstars on both sides. I mean, absolute superstars. You could talk about skill. You could talk about big names. You could talk about a willingness and heart and, you know, the intangibles of the fabric of the game. So this is one that I think the intrigue, I don't even know, and I'm speculating here, I don't even know if the NHL or any of their partners could have predicted just how perfect this thing has become.
Another thing, and I know you're versatile and you cover this other sport as well, the Blue Jays. We wake up this morning, a deadline has passed. It appears Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to play out the season and test free agency. How shocked are you?
Well, it's been a while since I've been in the baseball racket, but I will say this. I saw that this morning as well. And as somebody who isn't in Toronto, and, you know, here it is February, haven't covered the sport in a couple of years, but that stopped me in my tracks. And maybe it shouldn't. Maybe, you know, people who are closer to it than I would say, well, this is the way things have been going with the Jays and with superstars. However, that one caught me off guard just in terms of how the sense of finality. I don't know how this plays out. I know it certainly doesn't look great, and I can imagine Jays fans are losing their mind right now. And I'm fairly confident saying that sent a bit of a shockwave throughout a lot of different circles. So now what's Toronto going to do to either get him back in the mix, or what do they do going forward? It's fascinating because I know everyone is frustrated with the way things have been going.
Ryan, let's go way back to your days in Port Dover. And I mean, I don't know how much you were into sports or what your thoughts were about your career. If you look back to that guy at Port Dover back in those years, I mean, what do you think about?
I was a proud Port Dover Laker. Green and white, and I played for every sport, everything going. I was fortunate enough to be in a small school, but one that sports athletics were everything. Knew right away, however, I probably wasn't going to go pro, so in anything, but I knew right away early on I wanted to work in sports and in television broadcasting. So, yeah, I think back to those days, turning the volume down on either the weather or the sports, and doing, my own play-by-play. You mentioned Bob Cole off the top. That's where I thought I wanted to go early on, was play-by-play. My path just kind of took me in other directions, but I had a chance to meet Mr. Cole as well, which was fascinating. But no, I kind of knew I would only be in this sports industry at some point. That's, as I think our friend Arash Madani said, thank God there's still a job for C+ students. So I fit into that mix.
So Mohawk College, you enter Mohawk College, and are you beginning to define things and say, okay, you know what, I have a passion here, and now it's up to me to go chase it?
Yeah, I mean, this was just pre-internet, I believe, when I was there, and it's probably a much different program today than it was then, and the one thing I did love about it is we could make it what we wanted. So I was fortunate enough to meet some great people while I was there. Steve Watt on the mountain, he was a classmate of mine, and I loved the experience. It got me into an opportunity where I did an internship at Eastern Michigan, which was, for a kid who had no experience, that was big. That was Division I college basketball and Division I college sports, and that was huge. So I got to work in the sports information department. So growing up in Port Dover, knew I wanted to do it, get into college. It was kind of a blank canvas. They were pretty open with however you want to take it, wherever you want to go with it. I don't know at the time, and I know it's different now, but at the time, as though they were overly excited about when the first day you walk in, what do you want to do with this course? What do you want to do in this business? And I had said I wanted to work in sports. They kind of laughed at that at the time. I'm sure it's different now, but they're like, okay, that's cute, but you're going to end up in some town in northern Saskatchewan. You're going to make $8 an hour, and that's just the way it's going to be. And I kind of heard that, and I thought, well, I will show you guys. And so it was a good motivator. And then to go into Division I sports, and that was a blast, and then just kind of rolled from there. And it was a great place to start. I haven't been back to the college, probably since I left, but I know it's grown, and I hear great things. So that's awesome.
Calgary comes a calling, and in different ways too. I mean, I saw you at Global, and I remember seeing some of your stuff at Global, and I always thought, there's a guy that reminds me of the embedded reporter. He likes to get right involved, and he had this sort of wit about him at the desk. And when you look back at this kind of stuff, what do you think about?
I can't believe you found this. This was a story on long snapper Randy Chevrier, who had a wonderful career, some time in the NFL. Yeah, I honestly, I can't believe you found this. This is great. At a scene, if it's still rolling, look at this. He snaps the bread too at home. But there was a scene in this piece where he went to half court at a gymnasium, and his second attempt, he snapped it through his legs and drained at the basketball court, put it right in the hoop. So he was a talent. But yeah, I love to get right in there, and I had a great mentor and boss in Grant Pollock, who's an Alberta Sports Hall of Famer. And he had a show out here. It was called Sports at 11 and Sports 11:30 when it changed. But it was similar to Sportsline back in the day, Toronto, except it wasn't desk. It was kind of off the cuff. And he just kind of taught me how to do things differently. And, look at doing stories differently. Taught me how to do stories, and try to make it, if you're entertained, chances are somebody else is. If you kind of think about who your demographic is, and just, everybody wants to stand up and sound all official, but he kind of helped me get past all that nonsense and kind of make it conversational and make it kind of fun. And it was a great that Global 5 years. It really taught me, I thought, how to do good television, and I learned from one of the very best in the country in Grant. And it was a great opportunity to, at the time I was doing some work with the university here in Calgary. I was doing some work with Calgary Hitmen of the Western Hockey League. And so it was just a matter of try to get as much experience as you can, steal as many jobs as you can, get good, hopefully, at one of them, and then, see where it would take you. So when Grant hired me at Global, it was a game changer for me. I wasn't sure it was going to happen, and it did. And I can remember, Bubba, when I left the first night of anchoring, thinking to myself, of course, I grew up with Global as well in Ontario. And I remember I stopped off at just a place in, a neighborhood restaurant, and I just grabbed myself a beer on the way home. And I thought, this felt real for the first time. And, you'd kind of piecemealed jobs and done some, jumping through hoops, this kind of thing. And now this felt legit, and it felt like, okay, let's see where we can take it. So I owe a lot to him and certainly this market, because it's always been great to me.
I'm glad you brought up the market thing, because this is where, and I think a lot of young broadcasters they have to learn this, that it's all about finding out about your community and where you're going to settle down. Because you ended up going to Toronto when Sportsnet came calling, then you come back to Calgary, but by then you had built up so many relationships. And can you talk about that and why that's so important in terms of developing your career and going from one step to the next?
Oh, I think that's huge, and that's kind of what I talk to young people about if we get a chance to meet and chat about career stuff or what they should do. The business is not the same. Let's be real. There's not a lot of jobs. There's not a lot of opportunities. So what are you going to do to differentiate? What are you going to do to set yourself apart? And are you going to be, storytelling? Are you going to be just willing? I think a lot of us just never said no to opportunities and work. They want you to do this. Okay, you got it. Nights, weekends, no problem. You want to work on this story, whatever it is. But the relationship side of it is just so huge, where bosses or colleagues, they want to be able to rely on you, or they want to be able to know that when you're doing a story, maybe we should tune in for this one, appointment viewing, whatever it is. But I think in this era now, it becomes a lot about, is there substance? Is it about, the subject, or is it about the person telling the story? So I think you've got to really understand that there's a balance between, it's about the athlete in the game, and it's about, telling either their story in a way that they wanted, or having the relationships either with the athlete or with your colleagues to, best bring it to the audience. And I think, time and trust and all of those things go a long way. Oh, there's a great story. The staring contest between Brad Treliving and myself. That's great. Yeah, there's a lockout photo in front of City Hall. Great. Boring. You could see it on my face how thrilled I was. And man, you've done some homework here. There's Brian Burke, who's just wonderful, and still keep in touch with him and make fun of each other and rip each other apart the odd time. It's great. I was just texting with Treliving this morning, and Biz Nasty, one of the bigger names in the media world. He's fantastic. I've had a chance to be on his podcast as well, and he's just taking it and running with it. And so, yeah, this is wonderful because, I get a chance to work with Scott Oak on After Hours when he's in Calgary. That was the Mika Kiprasov retirement night, and we kind of put together a whole bunch of, of his former teammates, and just have wonderful conversation and great broadcasters there. We were lucky enough to have Rick Ball for 10 years or so, and he moved on to work with Darren Pang in Chicago, and Kelly Rudy, and the wonderful John Abbott, who replaced Rick, who, he's bounced around in a few NHL markets as a complete pro, and we got him finally full-time. He's great. And Kelly, of course, as everybody knows, is just a gentleman. So Darren Pang and those guys, we all got together. So great memories, great relationships, great stories, great laughs, even a great glass of wine or two on the road. And that's really what it's all about. We have, as one of the greatest jobs in the world. And so to share it with like-minded people is wonderful. And hopefully, you get a chance to kind of work up close and personal with these athletes as I have. And it does make the job go that much smoother, better, whatever it is. And the access that you gain allows you to tell their story. And again, it's still about entertainment, I think. And you got to be entertaining. So finding that balance with all the things we've talked about is crucial.
Talk to me about being at Sportsnet. And I try to tell people this, and I love my job where I am here, and I have amazing freedom to do what I'm doing right now, and also being at the Six. I've considered myself extremely fortunate, and I came here, and a lot of people kind of do the reverse of what I do. They would come at CHCH and then go to a place like Sportsnet. I did the kind of reverse, but I got an understanding, almost 12 years being there, about what it's like to work at a national sports network where the editors, the producers, the directors, they're all sports fans. We're all thinking the same way. Is that the way you think about it when you think about your days at Sportsnet? And and you're covering a National Hockey League team. You're about to go to practice in a couple of hours with the Flames. Dream stuff or what?
Yeah, and both are different, Bubba. I'm probably similar to you in that, I was an anchor there for a while and saw the structure of it all and just what a machine it is. I commuted for a couple of years to Toronto and did that, and then I was there full time for a few months. The news side of it is completely different than the live event side of it, and they are trying to bring it every minute of every day, the up to the minute news and things that are happening. And it is a big machine. And there's a lot of great people behind the scenes that make it happen. Editors, people on the row that are digging into highlights who know far more than most of us about the big picture of sports. And I have so much respect for them. The anchor is just the guy or the girl who, is the last step to bring it to the audience. But that's what I love about TV. It's not a one person thing. I've worked in radio. Radio's good. It's great. But for me, I just love the bigger part of the team. And so, with the network, it's a beast, and they have hard deadlines, and they're trying to always capture everything to, fulfill the appetite that is never going to be fulfilled of the sports fan. We want more content. What's good, what's entertaining, what's information, what can't they get maybe on the internet that they can get at the network. So, and now you branch into the digital side of it. You branch into the live events. You branch into all these different arms and tentacles of it. It's fascinating. Where I am now in this role for the last, I don't know how many years. It's been a while. I love it because, like you, I have the freedom. I travel with the team. So that makes life great. Variety is always there. Sure, it gets a little tiring at various points, and you look forward to a Four Nations or All-Star break. And when the off season's here, it's great, but it's a go through the winter. There's practices, there's games. How do you tell stories of the same team day in, day out, night in, night out? And that's, because after a while, analysis, everybody's got their own analysis. So how are you telling the stories? How are you making it entertaining? How are you bringing whatever it is about this team up to speed, as well as the opponents? So we try different things, right? We've got intermission panels. We've got, the last few games I've been in between the benches, which is a fascinating perspective. There's all different ways to, kind of bring it with our producers, with our broadcast team, with the men and women in the truck who are fantastic. So yeah, it's a traveling circus, if you will, you next stop, next town, and let's bring it every other night. So it seems on air, to the highest level.
Because you are so close to the team, and I know I can speak of my experience with the Tiger Cats and the fact that you kind of, it's inevitable. You kind of get to know the players and the individuals and the decision makers, and it becomes more of a relationship than just a head shake or a, hey, how are you? You get to really know the people. And I know that someone really close to you was a former player, in Johnny Gaudreau, and I know that was a moment for you, the passing of him and his brother Matthew in Salem, New Jersey, is the night before his sister's wedding. A story that, I don't even know if you could script up, and I say that respectfully. I know that affected you deeply.
Oh, yeah. You're right. It did. You know what, Bubba? It affected so many people in so many different ways, and I am reminded of it in the best ways on almost a daily basis, whether or not you're a hockey fan, or if you were a Gaudreau fan or a Flames fan or a Blue Jackets fan, whatever it was, there was something very special about Johnny and his connection with so many people, little kids, seniors, diehard hockey fans. It didn't matter. He had a way that people, because of maybe his size, maybe because of his skill, maybe because of that beautiful smile, whatever it was, they all felt a closeness to him. My mother, who didn't watch hockey at all, I'd come home from games and, she would reach out and say, "What was going on with John tonight?" And I'd just be like, "Whoa, this guy made her a fan. This guy made her want to watch and tune in." So when those boys passed, it ripped a hole in a lot of people's hearts, and understandably so. It's a tragedy, it's a crime, and it is something. I don't know. I don't know how you wrap your head around any of it, to be honest, and I don't know if we ever will. But I had a chance to go down to Columbus and visit with Meredith and family and friends and former teammates, and did a piece with them from her home, which was incredible. I'm grateful and thankful to Meredith for letting me and a camera into her home and see those beautiful kids. And the night in Calgary, there's Guy with Backlund and Rasmus when Columbus came to town. The emotions were like anything I'd ever seen or felt before. I had a chance to chat with Guy and Jane. There you go. That was the most unique and most challenging thing of my entire career, because I know those people. I care about those people like so many do. And you have to represent them and their family and that story and those boys, as well as the people who all know and care about all of them and all of those components. So that was the hardest to do that live during an intermission, but something I'm fiercely proud of because of how I feel about those people. So way back to your original point, you get to know the players, but you get to know some of these families. And when, they're traded or they move on or, whatever the scenario is, it's like, man, okay. It's like anything in life. You don't know if you'll see those people again. You keep in touch, but the hockey community is wonderful for that. And so still exchange a lot of texts with guys who move on and even their parents. I hear from Bob Hannafin in Boston with his Four Nations all the time, and Noah's out in Vegas. You just keep in touch with a lot of these guys. And I think kind of what we talked about earlier about the relationship side of it, again, it makes it pretty special. So, yeah, I've been very, very fortunate.
One of the reasons I've gotten to know you and was a mutual friend of ours, Lee Kennedy.
My cousin.
You're exactly. And I'm forever grateful for having the opportunity to call her a very, very close friend and obviously the opportunity to meet you. And I remember the day she called me and told me to drop you a line because your mom, Laurel, had passed away. I know she was extremely proud of you, big music lover.
Oh man, look at you.
What does she mean to you? And I know she's obviously no longer with us, but I'm led to believe that she's not only a huge fan of you, but a huge motivator for you.
Yeah, boy, you're tugging at the heartstrings here. Great job here, Bubba. This is great. I love talking about her all the time. She was great, a single mom. This was me and her and in the 70s. And this is her before she passed with my dog Backer. And he'd just go and sit and visit with her at her place. And that was great. But yeah, she meant everything to me. Just gave me the freedom to figure it out. Growing up with her, we were in Port Dover and Port Ryerson, and it was a fantastic time. I said I had the best. I used to tell her all the time. She worked shift work with young offenders, and I know she was hard on herself because of the shift work, and all the things and sacrifices that she had to make. But I used to tell her all the time, I wouldn't trade my childhood in for anyone's. I had the greatest. I was a combination of Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn, growing up. It was unbelievable, Bubba. I could bore your audience to tears, but it was incredible. I had this freedom. I grew up in this beautiful village on the shores of Lake Erie, and there was no internet, there was no stores, there was no, anything. It was just as wonderful as it gets. My kids today constantly say, because I bring them home every summer, and I am again this summer, They constantly say, Dad, I wish I grew up when you grew up and where you grew up, because I'm past the comparing what's the better part in Canada. There's so many great places. The West is wonderful. We were in the Maritimes last summer. We're going to go back to Southern Ontario. But for me, Southern Ontario is the most special place in the world. And I know almost every corner of it. And I just, I look forward to going back there. The memories, the beauty of it all, the way time hasn't necessarily touched it. So my mom allowed me to explore it. There's a purity to it. And it's one where she just kind of let me figure it all out on my own, but was there to completely be a supportive, and I mean relentless support of me, no matter what I was doing. So it was, the best thing to do. And I think about all that she did so that I could be doing my thing. And she was right there in my corner, no matter what.
Hey, Rye, this has been great. I know that, obviously because we're in the industry, and every once in a while I'll pop on, Sportsnet West, and I'll see you doing your thing. And I know I'd drop you a little text or something like that. And it's awesome for me to see you doing what you're doing, because I know you love it. I know you're passionate about it. You're always looking to improve. And I've never heard someone say anything bad about Ryan Leslie. And I think that's fantastic. So continued support, continued, good luck in everything you do. And I'm looking forward to you coming home and treating me to a good little plate of Lake Erie perch. Will you do that for me?
I'm home the end of July. The table will be set. The invite is official, on air right here. And there will be some perch, and there will be a cold beverage with your name on it. And I want to send a quick shout out to my Aunt Linda Kennedy in Burlington, my cousin Lee Kennedy, her husband Bob McDonald, who is a former CFL lineman. We're thinking of you, Bob. Get well. And Steve Watt on the mountain, and all those people who wore the green and white of the Port Dover Lakers. Love it.
Thanks for joining us, partner.
Thanks for having me. This was great. Appreciate it, Bubba.
That's the Sportsline Podcast for the day. And as you've just seen and heard, we love talking sports with people that have that passion. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote, we do want to hear from you. Please hit that 5-star thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. If you have something to say, please comment. We appreciate it. For the outstanding people that make the Sportsline Podcast possible on a daily basis, thank you so very much. And we'll see you tomorrow.